Want to big up Hat Man? Yes, AJ shouldn't put pressure on himself. And I was saying this before the Ruiz loss. I'm talking about in terms of actually getting these opponents to the ring, like Wilder and Fury, and Dillian White for that matter, and whoever else turned down the payday, Luis Ortiz. He shouldn't pressure himself because they don't want to go in the ring for career highest paydays. Some of them try and leverage tactics, freeze AJ out tactics, and we see how far that's got now. Fury and Wilder are no longer on the same side of the street talking about when two fighters want to fight, it's easy to make. I'm going to keep bringing that one up because that's what they were saying in 2018. But now, oh, you should step aside and let me fight for undisputed. I don't think you want to fight. Then the other guy is saying if he pulls out of their contracted rematch in February, I'm going to take out a lawsuit. You'll never be able to fight again. Wilder recently said that Fury is delusional, that the lineal championship is a fictional title. Well, he wasn't saying that before he turned down the AJ fight for undisputed. One of the biggest selling points they had for that fight was that Fury didn't lose his belts in the ring. Lineal champion versus the WBC champion. They're on different hymn sheets right now, I tell you that. Dillian, he decided to bet on himself as well and will not elaborate on what's happened with his career since he turned down the April the 13th date at Wembley. So, my take on it is not AJ's job to worry about opponents who are playing hardball, leverage tactics, freeze out tactics, or whatever they're doing. It's not his job to worry about that. He can't force these guys into the ring. Now, that don't mean that I'm saying he should go look for some easy knockover jobs wherever he can find them. Now, I hear what Hatman is saying by what he said. By AJ trying to take on the toughest competition, it gives him an edge. It will motivate him to try and be better than the rest by taking on the biggest, the baddest, whenever. But at the same time, it's a lot of unnecessary stress when the politics don't allow that. In 2019 and 2020, he needs to take the same attitude that Wilder and Fury, like Wilder will tell you that Luis Ortiz is a back-to-back killer, and he'll stick by it. His fan base and the media or anyone who does his damage control, they'll stick by it. But when you look at Luis Ortiz's resume, it doesn't really add up. Good fighter, but back-to-back killer, never in a month of Sundays, in no era of heavyweight boxing, in none. And this is Wilder's biggest victory of his career, 40-plus fights. Bob Arum, Top Rank, ESPN, Tyson Fury. ESPN ran the broadcast for the Schwartz fight like it was a proper world title fight. If them fights are going to manifest without too much problems, then yeah. If he can get them guys in the ring and he's ambitious and he wants to get an undisputed title and be the best, fair enough if you can get him in the ring. But while you can't, it's no point putting that pressure on yourself. He needs to be like Fury in this regard. Fury is taking Otto Wallin as serious as he's taking Deontay Wilder. If you interview Tyson Fury and start talking about Wilder and Joshua, I'm only concentrating on one guy, Wallin. And AJ has to understand that. When he's saying he wants to take on an easy opponent after and if he beats Ruiz, he has to understand the mentality that it takes to do that. He did say he didn't want to fight Ruiz. He wanted to fight Wilder, Fury, in them fights. That's what he said. But he was frozen out. That's what he did say. So that suggests to me that he wasn't inspired for the fight. That's what he's saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's what he's saying. He wasn't inspired to fight. So if he's going to say next now that, yeah, I'm going to take on easy fights as well, this time we don't want to hear that he couldn't get up for the fight. You need to be up for it. You need to be inspired. But if AJ is going to do that, he has to understand that you don't take on an easy opponent and train for him like it's an easy opponent. You train for him the same way you're training for Ruiz, Wilder, or Fury. Mentally and physically. And there's boxers who can do that. There's lots of boxers who can do that. They don't care who they're fighting. They wouldn't care less if it was their mum, son, or daughter. They're trained for it like they was fighting the biggest and baddest out there. And that's what AJ has to do. Every fight. AJ's job is to deliver in the ring. So it shouldn't matter if it's a lower tier opponent or a higher tier opponent. His job is to destroy and prepare correctly. Yeah? We could hear there was fractures in the camp before he got beaten by Ruiz. And Johnny Nelson brought it to my mind. Because when he said he wanted to call out Ortiz, I was thinking, yeah, let's get the Ortiz in there. But when Johnny Nelson says, wait, you don't do that. You don't take 4 or 5 week training camps to train for a southpaw after you've been training for a totally different style for so long. You don't do that. That's when I should have realized that there's serious problems right now in the camp. Because he was getting anxious. Wasn't thinking straight. That's not how you box. You box to a strategy, to a planned strategy at this level here. You go to the lab and you strategize. Yeah, so basically I'm saying AJ shouldn't stress about what opponents are being brought to him, or what belts they have, or what status they have. His job is to keep excellent window maintenance. That's all it is. Every time you go out there, it doesn't matter if you're fighting the guy from the Southern area title. You build up the show as big as you can build it up. No matter how wacky he is. It's the biggest show on earth. And I'm going to put on the greatest display. Because this guy's dangerous. He can knock me out, he can kill me, he can do this and that. And he's trying to stop me reaching my goals and objectives. Every opponent. Why should he worry about Wilder and Fury? They're not worried about him. There's other good fighters out there. Usyk would fight him and give him just as much credibility as them guys. Why not? These are challenges. These are all stiff challenges that will prepare him. He's only had 23 fights anyway. And when they come to their senses and realize that AJ does more pay-per-view, or at least they used to, he's on the app now, and the app can pay either Fury or Wilder way more than any pay-per-view on ESPN or Showtime, and does bigger gates, and that the fight is bigger under AJ's terms, not theirs, then we can have Undisputed. Then we can have the British Showdown with Fury. But until then, fuck them. Fight the next best available. That's always the solution. Fight the next best available. But treat them like Fury and Wilder. Every fight is Fury and Wilder. Even if the fans, the crowd, the media don't see it like that, that's how he's got to see it. Also, AJ's saying, yeah, I'm going to take on easy opponents like Fury. Fury, according to him, nearly committed suicide and was at his end. All right? I'm imagining he spent a lot of his money. But right now, he's got a lucrative deal that he got on the backs of that draw with Wilder. He's making good money this year without taking on the best opposition. But he's also using these fights as training to get himself in shape and sharpen himself up for that Wilder fight. He's not just taking them on because he sees it as an easy fight. He's actually prepping for Wilder doing that. So AJ has to have that in mind. You don't just take on easy opponents just to get by. You better have a style that you're prepping for, or maybe a technique that you're prepping to use. And what better place to do it than in an actual fight that you're getting paid for? And also you have to keep in mind, while you've got it down as I'm taking an easy fight, your opponent might be looking at this as a way out of their situation, like Ruiz. One thing I found troubling was when he was watching back the Ruiz fight with his friend. And his friend, like many people, wanted to know, was there something physically wrong with you? Was there something not quite right beforehand? And then he said, yeah, you can see I was just too relaxed. I had nothing to gain. Nothing to gain? What did you mean by that? You better have something to gain if you beat Ruiz and try to take on easier opponents. You always got to have something to gain once you go in that ring. And let's keep it in mind, not everybody can do what Fury is doing. Fury's got 85-inch reach. But he could be the best boxer out there. Could be. But we can't say yet. He hasn't fought the variation of opponent yet. Dangerous actually taking opponents down the scale. Because there is always that chance that you're going to overlook them somewhere. How can there not be? And lastly, if this was a serious statement by AJ, that he wants to take on easier opponents if and after he beats Ruiz, I would prefer him take the easier opponent now and avoid the Ruiz fight. If AJ is going to take on easier fights, take them now after you just lost, reinvent yourself, and then start looking for belts. But if AJ is saying, I'm ready to get my belts back, I want to be champion again, well, you got to be looking at taking on all comers. This ain't no lineal championship that has no standards, a top 10 to which you're limited to select voluntaries. You can't have 3 belts in your possession and say you're looking for easy fights, because you can have 3 mandatories at any given time. So perhaps, yeah, if they're ready to fight, signing contracts and they're serious, you can put some pressure on yourself to perhaps exceed your expectations and outperform yourself, no doubt. No doubt. It's whatever works best for the individual fighter. Tyson Fury, he was talking to Mike Tyson. He said, I don't take none of them serious when I go in the ring. I clown around, I play. But that works for him. But once you sniff the leverage tactics, the fake call-outs, the clout chasing, freeze out politics, nah, you got no business stressing about them. You saw what Eddie did the other day when he heard that Wilder wanted to fight AJ or Ruiz. He wanted to fight the winner. He just dismissed Wilder straight away. Erased his energy. He erased Wilder's energy away from Team AJ. Called him a clout chaser. Told him to go fight Fury. Go fight Ortiz. Like you said you were going to do. I like the way Eddie handled that. I do.